Is Dragon Ball Super Broly the legendary Super Saiyan as he was in the Dragon Ball Z movie timeline? Now, since Toyotaro's poster based on the 5 main protagonists in Universe 7 and Broly having the green tinted hair officially in the Dragon Ball Super manga, it has led a lot of people to finally believe that Broly is indeed the legendary Super Saiyan in the Dragon Ball Super continuity. However, it still has a lot of opposition, and one of the main discussions, dialectic debates happening in my comment section are about whether Broly is the legendary Super Saiyan. So in this video we're going to completely dissect it, look at everything that we have and everything that we know, and I'll of course give my opinion, and in turn your way to lend me your energy is to put your opinion on it down in the comment section. Honestly, this will be a thorough dissection. Make sure you comment down below. That is all I can ask for, to lend me your energy, as well as smashing a like on the video so that I can gather an enormous motherfucking Genki Dharma against this YouTube algorithm. Honestly guys, we really need your help right now. YouTube, type Dragon Ball in and all you will see are shorts. It's heavily promoting the shorts, long form videos like this that entice discussion, well thought out discussion. They're trying to bury us. Lend not only me but other Dragon Ball YouTubers your energy, but in particular right now, lend me your energy by smashing a like on the video, by saying anything down in the comment section, even if it's just saying, here, I'm lending you my energy. It is hugely appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. If you like Dragon Ball videos and you've got time for a few Dragon Ball videos per month, this is a good channel for you. Hit that subscribe button with all notifications clicked on. So obviously Dragon Ball Super Broly, heavily inspired by Dragon Ball Z Broly, but there are differences between the current Dragon Ball Z Super Broly and the Dragon Ball Z Broly. Now remember, in Dragon Ball Super, you could argue there's 2 different Dragon Ball Super Brolys. There's the one in the movie and there's the one in the manga. As far as I'm concerned, they don't really deviate that far away from each other, despite a few minor differences, but they're not really that impactful on the character as a whole of Broly. Still, the continuity Nazis will proclaim that they are 2 different ones, so I just wanted to stick that out there. However, we do know that Toriyama wrote the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. In fact, there was an initial 3-hour script for the Broly movie, and then of course he was heavily involved in the Dragon Ball Super manga as well. Obviously Toyotaro was the one who penned out the final drafts of it, but it was approved by Toriyama, even up to the current ongoings at the end of the superhero arc on Beerus' planet, where the Saiyans all sparred each other, including Super Saiyan Broly. So if Toyotaro isn't enough, we know that Toriyama was heavily involved. We do know he was influenced, however, in the movie by Toei, who wanted that green tinted hair, but in previous history throughout Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, he was influenced by other media and other people in his circle, especially from his editors Torishima, Kondo and Takeda. Ultimately, all that matters really is the final outcome. And what the final outcome is Toriyama's final agreed upon story that he intends for the audience to interpret. And what we have in the movies and what we have in the manga is it, whether you like it or not. So now that that's out the way, the original Dragon Ball Z Broly was designed by Akira Toriyama himself. It's stated in the Daizenshu that he did the designs for Broly. Obviously he did not write the story for Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan movie 8. So the story, the lore, wasn't done by Toriyama. However, Toriyama adapted his own version of Broly in Dragon Ball Super and came up with a different version. Now I've given my thoughts on which one I prefer. I prefer base Broly in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, but I prefer Super Saiyan Broly in the original Z movies. I like the more sadistic legendary Super Saiyan we got in the initial movies. However, the one we got in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie is just the start, so there's obviously more to come. So I'm definitely excited about that. But here's the kicker. The original Dragon Ball Z Broly, when turning Super Saiyan, was called the Legendary Super Saiyan. So that is why people often refer to that Broly as the Legendary Super Saiyan, whereas the Broly in Dragon Ball Super, when he goes into that green tinted out of control raged out form against Gogeta Blue in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, is actually called, officially at least, Super Saiyan Full Power, not to be mistaken with Full Powered Super Saiyan. I know it gets tedious. However, if you go to a guidebook, you'll actually find that Broly's legendary Super Saiyan form from the original Z movies was also called the Broly type Super Saiyan. It wasn't necessarily called the legendary Super Saiyan. The legendary Super Saiyan was part of the title, and that has connotations within itself. So let's take a look at what the word legendary means. Even taking a look at the good old Oxford Languages Dictionary, legendary, described in or based in legend, or it could mean remarkable enough to be famous, very well known. So it's not a type of Super Saiyan, it's basically the description of how it's become known to be. So Broly Super Saiyan in the Dragon Ball Z movies was a legendary form that is famous for something. Now that Broly has been conquering the galaxy, so you could argue that it's legendary because he's been conquering the galaxy. Dragon Ball Super has certainly gone in a slightly different direction because they've had Broly stuck on planet Vampa, and his Super Saiyan form is not quite famous or of legend yet because there's only been one event where it's happened. He kind of got subdued after a couple of hours despite whooping on quite a few very strong powerful warriors. But I think what gets confusing about the legendary Super Saiyan in Dragon Ball's lore is the fact that when Goku first initially achieved Super Saiyan, the original Super Saiyan form, the golden haired state, was already of legend. It was a legendary Super Saiyan. Goku became the legendary Super Saiyan, just not in the same way it's described as in the movie. Both are legendary, I guess, they're just two different legendary stories of a Super Saiyan, where you can tell that one type is more powerful than the other type. But then of course there's the story of Yamoshi. The story of Yamoshi is of legend. It is legendary. Was he the original legendary Super Saiyan or the original legendary Super Saiyan God? Legendary is simply an adjective. It's a describing word, not necessarily an accurate term for a form type. But we've had all these different types of legendary Super Saiyan types of forms, even including Super Saiyan God. So, which one is the legendary Super Saiyan? Which one is the biggest legend? Well, you could argue there is a bigger legend than the other legends, but that's not really been delved on yet in either Dragon Ball Z, the Broly movie, or in Dragon Ball Super. Broly being the legendary Super Saiyan in the movies makes little sense, especially when Vegeta refers to him as a legendary Super Saiyan, simply because they had no idea who Broly was until they actually met him. So his Super Saiyan form has to be based off of a legend from long ago. Could it just be from what they heard from King Vegeta about the baby with remarkable power? Sounds unlikely, but possible. But Dragon Ball Super takes a slightly different direction with it. Broly wasn't the first legendary Saiyan to be introduced into Dragon Ball Super. It was Kale. Even though she came first in the anime of Dragon Ball Super, she was eventually introduced in the manga, and we actually got more description of her form in the manga. Now, interestingly, they take a slightly different direction. I would argue the manga's version of describing the legendary status actually makes more sense. They actually are the legendary Saiyan rather than the legendary Super Saiyan. However, if you add one and one together, you will get two, right? Hear me out. So, ultimately, Kale is stated to be by Cabba the legendary Saiyan. That comes around every 1,000 years. Broli obviously comes a lot later, well, an arc later. When Kale goes Super Saiyan, she has her own unique form, as does Broly. This is also correlated in the Jump magazine, which states about Kale and Broly's form. Here is what it states. Uso, I don't even know if I pronounced that right, but forgive me, means acting out of control or rampaging. Pretty much sounds like Broly and Kale, doesn't it? The problem with the legendary Saiyan, see, legendary Saiyan, as seen with Broly and Kale, is that they completely lose control of themselves. That can be a problem if it's a team battle, blah 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 blah, it goes into something else. But ultimately, what it's telling us is that Broly and Kale are the legendary Saiyan. They both have their own unique Super Saiyan forms that are different to that original golden haired Super Saiyan form. However, we have seen the colouring of the manga now, which I find very interesting and what I'm about to go into in just a moment. And it could also explain the colouring before we got that poster from Toyotaro that actually gave Broly that green tinted hair. And it may be to do with the control of that form. Now, while some people will say, well, that's just the manga version, in the movie it was foreshadowed in the movie that the legendary Super Saiyan does exist, and obviously we know this was penned by Toriyama. As you can see on your screen now, it was prognosticated when he was a baby that he could be the legendary Super Saiyan. So not only do we have that term, the legendary Saiyan there, his Super Saiyan form could be the legendary Super Saiyan. Now, the difference between the green tint in the Z movie and the Super movie and manga is about control. Now, interestingly, Kale has served as a perfect example, but also Kefla, the fusion of Kale and Caulifla, which would have this type of Super Saiyan involved in that particular fusion. As we see in the Tournament of Power, the colouring for the manga, we see even when Kale's in this Super Saiyan form, she has more of a golden tint to her hair than green tint. Broly has a similar tint to his hair, as you can see on your screen now. In the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, we've not really seen Broly get given the green tint from the Super movie, simply because we've only really had a short summary. We don't even fully know, even though we suspect based on one image, that he has the Ikari form in the manga. I would suspect that Toyotaro is being respectful to Toriyama's original script, and he will keep everything that is involved. But I guess it's open. Still, it's still that golden haired state at the end when he's about to be destroyed by Gogeta Blue. But we did see in the movie that his pupils came back, so maybe it's showing a similar thing. Ultimately, Caulifla only got green hair when Kale and Caulifla fused, because Caulifla brought an element of control to that power that Kale couldn't control and basically just lost it with. So that's when she got the controlled green hair. And we're seeing a similar thing with Broli. Now that Broly's got controlled Super Saiyan, as many people are calling it, his hair has got a green tint to it. Obviously, training with Goku and Vegeta on Beerus' planet, Broly's found a way to actually be able to do this without fusing like Kale had to, which is interesting if you look at Dragon Ball Z Broly. Broly had a restrained Super Saiyan form with bluish hair, which I think really was the equivalent to Broly's Ikari form in Super. But then you get the regular golden haired Super Saiyan form, and then the legendary Super Saiyan form, or the Broly type Super Saiyan form. However, on this occasion, it's called a Super Saiyan type C. So it's Broly's own unique transformation, and it's almost like a different branch of the Super Saiyan transformation to the grade 2, 3, and 4, where unironically grade 4 Super Saiyan is also incidentally called Full Powered Super Saiyan, not to be mixed up with DBS Broly's Super Saiyan Full Power. I know, it gets tedious, but Broly's Super Saiyan Full Power is the official terminology used for Broly's Super Saiyan form, but I do think it is an equivalent to the legendary Broly Type C form that we saw in the Z movies. I believe that's what's intended. They've gone a slightly different direction in terms of describing why Broly is legendary. He is a mutated Saiyan that is legendary, that has his own unique Super Saiyan form, therefore it would be a legendary Super Saiyan form. Like I said, 1 + 1 = 2, you can make it work quite easily. Ultimately, you are correct if you refer to Dragon Ball Super Broly as Super Saiyan Full Power Broly or the legendary Super Saiyan Broly. I just don't think it's got far enough in DBS Broly's story yet for him to have his transformation fully explained as a legendary Super Saiyan form, or for him, in fact, to do something legendary. You can argue that Goku's Super Saiyan form was legendary. In fact, the story of him beating Frieza on Namek was legendary, and you would be correct. But I think one story is intended to be the most legendary, and that is the story of the legendary Saiyan type that we now have in Dragon Ball Super. As we saw, it doesn't just go beyond the golden haired Super Saiyan, it goes beyond Super Saiyan God and even Super Saiyan Blue. I think the exciting thing is Broly still has room for development in the Dragon Ball Super story, and he's likely going to get that legendary moment at some point. Anyway guys, for me, Broly is the legendary Super Saiyan in Dragon Ball Super. He just hasn't got that terminology yet, and they probably don't want to conflate it with Dragon Ball Z Broly, as Dragon Ball Z Broly is still quite popular. In fact, some people still prefer Dragon Ball Z Broly, and fair play to them. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Is Broly the legendary Super Saiyan? Do you think there's argumentation against what I've said, or what other people in the comment section say about Broly being the legendary Super Saiyan? I really look forward to what you've got to say. I will read all these comments. Smash a like on the video, please. Do lend me your energy, even if it's a dislike. But make sure you comment down below. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Until next time, Ad Astra.